How do I, 32 female, tell my son, 5 years old, that his father isn't safe to be around alone? So, I divorced my son's father after it became apparently I was a walking sex doll he could use for booze money. No matter how many times I try to talk to him, how many times his own family tried, or how many chances I gave him, he never tried to change. He won't admit he has a drinking problem that still persists to this day. After a horrible mistake that could have cost my son's life, drinking and diving, he is no longer allowed to see our son alone, ever. I have and have had full complete custody of our son since the divorce as the judge deemed him unfit. My ex, mother in law, God bless this woman, watches my son overnights, a couple nights a week, and does his schooling, remote learning. She's a retired teacher. She used to let her son stay the night there until she woke up to find he'd left the stove on after cooking my son's sausages for breakfast. When she went to confront him, he was passed out and smelled of alcohol. He's no longer allowed to stay past 8 p.m. at her house. My son, so very innocent in all of this. He is understandably upset because daddy can't stay anymore, and I simply don't know how to tell him why. I don't want to ruin his relationship with his father, who seems hell-bent on doing that himself, but he needs to know something to try and understand what's going on. I plan on getting him a specialized child therapist, but with COVID right now and him being high risk, I just can't do it at that moment. So until then, any advice at all would be really appreciated. Update? Holy crap! I did not expect this to blow up the way it did. I've talked with my son and told him that daddy is very sick in his head, but he loves him very, very much. I explained it's been like this since before he was born. It got worse when I got pregnant, and that it doesn't mean he loves him any less. For anyone wondering, I hold no ill will towards my ex. I did for a while, I'll admit, but therapy has helped immensely. And while I have no love for him anymore, I don't want him to go better for our son. My father was much like this, and unfortunately for me, it ended very, very badly about 10 years ago. Thank you, everyone, so much for all of your help and advice. I might not be able to respond to all of the comments, but I will read them and appreciate the help.
Tell him that his father is very sick, and because of this he can't be around now. You're not lying, and you're putting his condition in a way a child can understand. As a child of a father who chose drugs and had his mother lie about it, please just be honest. I was told all sorts of stories and made up nonsense about my father. I hated nothing more than finding out later in life I didn't know him at all when it was too late. I've seen people say he's sick. Don't say he's sick. Tell your son that while you both love daddy very much, he's just working on some problems. Dad can't come back till he gets his problem solved, and he's working real hard. This would at least prevent him from ever asking if he's still sick when they do interact. This would leave him less worried about his well-being and hopefully a more positive outlook towards him. So, my mom is mentally ill and I have custody of my 6-year-old brother. He loves my mom because she's fun and lets him do whatever he wants, but she's just not safe for him to be alone with, so I've had to explain to him that mom's brain is a little different than his brain. I explained to him that her brain doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and right now she's got to get better so she can play with him again. I don't know how long it'll take until she feels better, but in the meantime he can always call her on the phone or video. I explained that she does love him very much, and that he's her favorite little boy in the world, but right now she's just got to focus on getting better for him. I personally hate my mother to the core because in reality she's a human pile of shit, but he doesn't need to know that. He'll have his time where he'll figure out how he feels about her himself when he's old enough to understand her behavior. For now he just knows she's sick and trying to get better for him. Well, I was 6 or 7 when I worked out for myself about my mum's drinking and the effect it had on her. So it might be possible to say something along the lines of when daddy drinks his beers, he gets silly and forgets how to look after little boys and keeps them safe. I went through this with my son's father. My son was 3.5 years old at the time and watched his dad get arrested after drunk driving and causing an accident with him in the car. I told my son that sometimes people make bad choices, but that doesn't mean his dad is a bad person. I really emphasized that the choice was bad, not the person, because it's his dad, and he doesn't want to believe his dad is bad. We had supervised visits after that, and I put my anger aside to encourage visits that were safe. My son thought his dad went to jail because he crashed his car, so I explained to him that he chose to drink too much beer and then drive, which was a bad choice and not safe. As my son got older, we talked more in depth about it. 12 years later and my son is a well-adjusted teenager who understands the dangers of drugs and alcohol, and his dad is very involved and sober. I think matter of fact, with non-judgmental language, at a level they can understand is usually the best bet. Open quote, daddy drinks beers and when he does he makes unsafe choices like driving with you in the car, or leaving the stove on. Being vague allows too much room for kids to create brand new scenarios, and increase anxiety in my experience. Kids know when someone is messed up, they just don't have the vocab or experience to verbalize it, and it makes it so much scarier. I am sorry you are dealing with this, it is really a lot and feels impossible. Children know more than we think. When I was your son's age, my mom told me that my dad was a very good person, but that he was very sick. He had a bad disease which caused him to drink heavily. This was a simple explanation, and it did make sense to me even at that age. As the years went on, it just became a normal fact of my life. I never held it against my dad, though at times I wished he was more available. I'm in my mid-30s now with a 5-year-old son myself. I had to file for custody early on, so everything came around full circle. I still love my dad, he is still not available, but as an adult I have been able to navigate it just fine. I catch him on the phone when he is sober, mornings. He loves the hell out of me, he regrets the past, but he has not stopped drinking at all. Mom was right, it is a disease. That said, I have my dad's genes. Seeing how drinking affected his life allowed me to catch myself in the same habit early on. I have struggled some, so I largely just don't buy alcohol except here and there. So when your son gets older, explain to him that the disease can be passed down to him, and he really needs to tread lightly in his teens/adult years.